answering the question whether AI is a threat to the future of humanity. In fact, I can do it in one word, and that one word is yes. Absolutely. Strong AI is an existential threat to humanity. If we get the transition to strong AI wrong, there's a pretty decent chance it will wipe us out. But there's good news as well, which is that artificial intelligence is fantastically beneficial for humanity if we get it right. If we make the transition to strong AI successfully, we will probably pretty much become godlike. So I agree with Stephen Hawking. It's always nice to be agreeing with such a bright man as Stephen Hawking. AI will either be the best or the worst thing ever to happen to humanity. Now, if you want to know about the two great changes that are coming this century, the two great singularities, you're in luck because I've written a couple of books, one on each. Carsten has started a terrible precedent here, but self-publicisation. I can't understand why these books weren't on his list. I'm sure he'll fix that in his list. Good man.
Will be next time.
Good man, good man. A tip about your favourite book, I quite agree with you. Homo Deus is something everybody should read, and the way to get through Homo Deus is don't read the first third. It's a lengthy diatribe about veganism. Just go straight to the last two, which are quite brilliant. They are quite brilliant. So I believe that this is the century of two singularities, two great, huge waves of change which are crashing over us. Now, this word singularity annoys some people, so what do we mean by it? The singularity in maths and physics is a point where all the rules break down, and in maths and physics it's because a variable becomes infinite. So a classic example is a black hole. At the centre of a black hole, mass becomes infinite. All the normal rules of physics break down. It was first applied to human affairs, technology and sociology, by John von Neumann, who was one of the founding fathers of computer and a brilliant polymath. So it has reasonable intellectual pedigree, and I say that because the man who's made it most famous doesn't quite so much. I think Carsten referred to him as a tosspot, which I thought was a bit harsh. So Ray Kurzweil believes that we will get artificial general intelligence in 2029, the technological singularity will happen in 2045, and we'll all zoom around the universe being gods pretty much immediately after that. Now, that's perhaps a bit far-fetched, perhaps not, but you can't take one thing away from Ray Kurzweil. Whatever else he's done, however relentlessly optimistic he may be, he is the man who woke most of us up to what's coming thanks to AI. So we actually owe him a great debt of thanks for that. And it is all about artificial intelligence, these huge changes that are coming over us. Very, very powerful technology, our most powerful technology. It's very powerful already. We've seen 4 great human versus machine competitions, and we've lost all of them. Chess in 1996, Jeopardy in 2011, Go last year, March last year, and just this last week, more or less the best human players of no-limit Texas Hold'em poker lost to a machine, and they lost really badly. Those things are quite well known. What's not quite so well known, has been referred to earlier today, is that there was a big change in artificial intelligence around 2012 when a branch of statistics called machine learning began to be successfully applied to artificial intelligence. And that was made possible partly through the genius of Jeff Hinton, who, as has been said earlier, is now working at Google, but actually mainly because we now have such vast lakes of data to give to the machines to process, and we have such powerful machines. And the reason why we have these powerful machines, the reason why they are growing more powerful, is, as this man Gordon Moore noticed in 1965, we've been packing twice as many transistors on a chip every 18 months. So this is Moore's law. Now, Moore's law doesn't any longer mean exactly that, but what it really means is that every 18 months or so, computers get twice as powerful. $1,000 worth of computer gets twice as powerful every 18 months. And that gives you exponential growth. I would argue that if you only remember one thing from today, perhaps apart from the nice shiny cars out front, you should remember exponential growth. If you don't already know about exponential growth, this is the one concept you need to take home with you, because it's driving everything. That's what exponential growth looks like. It looks like in the past, things were moving along very slowly. The present is getting quite interesting, and then the future is vertiginous and either terrifying or really exciting, depending on how optimistic you are. But the interesting thing about exponential growth is wherever you are in a process, it always looks like that. The past always looks rather dull, the future always looks fantastically exciting. So as a simple analogy for exponential growth, Carsten mentioned the chessboard, but as a simple analogy for it, if you took 30 normal steps, you travel about 30 meters out that door. If you could take 30 exponential steps, you would go to the moon. But in fact, that's not quite right. The 29th step would take you to the moon, and the 30th step would bring you all the way back. Each step in the process is as big as everything else that's gone before. And that is why the smartphone in your pocket has more computer power, actually a lot more computer power, than NASA had at their disposal when they sent Neil Armstrong to the moon. In fact, that analogy is getting a bit whispery now. I understand that top-end dishwashers now have more processing power than NASA had when they sent Neil Armstrong to the moon. But because exponential growth is carrying on, and because it's always much more exciting in the future, we are only at the beginning. As Bill Gates said in his foreword to one of Ray Kurzweil's books, you ain't seen nothing yet. So, I believe that over the next century, in the course of this century, we're going to have these two huge changes. The singularity is a superlative for change, superlative for disruption. Two huge changes watching over us. Many of you are LSE students, I think. Many of you will therefore go on to be strategy consultants. You will see a lot of charts like this, 2x2 matrices. I am a recovering strategy consultant. I can't quite shake these things off. So, of the two singularities, the technological singularity, which is about superintelligence, is more important, because if we get it wrong, it will kill us. And the economic singularity is more urgent because it's coming sooner. So let's take the most important one first. But before we do, these are both aspects of the information revolution, which is the third great change to wash over humanity. 10,000 years ago or so, 10, 15,000, in different parts of the world, the agricultural revolution completely changed the way we live. Then in 1712, the Industrial Revolution got started in this country. And then around about 1959, I haven't only chosen that date because it's my birthday, we had the Information Revolution. And that is driving all of this. Digitization is all part of the Information Revolution. So when the clever people at the World Economic Forum, all those rich people in Davos, try to tell you that this is the fourth industrial revolution, hit them on the head. It's not. It's different. It's not the fourth industrial revolution. This is the Information Revolution. So, the technological singularity. Now, it's a fool's game trying to guess when these things are going to happen. Nobody knows. We won't know until we get there. Some people, Ray Kurzweil, think it will happen in the next 20, 30 years. I chaired a conference on AI in business last December, and the head of machine learning at Uber put this at 25 years from now, which I was stunned by. I was stunned that he was prepared to say that in such an open forum. Nick Bostrom, who had written the book on this called Superintelligence, thinks it's probably 50 to 70 years, and I'm not going to argue with him. It seems entirely plausible to me. And it's when we create a machine which has all the intellectual capabilities of an adult human. And that machine, because machines can be improved in the ways that we can't, goes on to become superintelligence. So maybe a month, maybe a year, maybe a day after we create the first AGI, we have the first superintelligence, which is twice as smart as us. And then it's 4 times as smart as us. And pretty quickly it's 1,000,000 times smarter than us. And you begin to see that that's a very interesting position for us to be in. At the moment, we are the smartest species on the planet. Chimpanzees are the second smartest species on the planet. Their future is entirely in our hands. They have nothing to say about their future. Luckily for them, they don't know that. We will know that. We will be the second smartest species on the planet. We'll know about it, and that might be very uncomfortable. Why would anybody think that this is possible? Well, there are 2 ways to do it. One is to carry on advancing the artificial intelligence systems that we already have. They're very smart. They're getting smarter at an exponential rate. A lot of people believe that that will take us to superintelligence, and I think they're probably right. But we don't know that. We don't know what sort of conceptual leaps are required to get from here to there. But there's another way to do it, which really should work. There's really no reason why it shouldn't work, and that is whole brain emulation. And what you do there is you take a human brain, hopefully from somebody who stopped using it because they're dead, you slice it really thinly, you scan it in great detail down to the molecular level, and you work out a thing called the connectome, which is the map of how all the neurons go around the brain and join up with each other. And you instantiate that map in a computer. You make a replica of a human brain in a computer. Now, this is not an easy thing to do. The reason why it hasn't been done yet, it won't be done for quite a long while, is it's a massive task because there are 85 billion neurons in your head. and each of them has about 1,000 connections. So it's a really big job. But it's just a question of scale, and we are getting there at an exponential rate. There were estimates that human brains require exascale level of computing. That's 1 followed by 18 zeros, operations per second. Now, that's probably wrong. It's probably out by a factor of 2 or 3 powers. We're going to have exascale computing by the end of this year. So we're getting there. And this approach, whole brain emulation, should work, probably 50 years away. As I said, Nick Bostrom wrote the book on this called Superintelligence. It's a bit weighty, it's a bit dense to get through, but it's well worth reading. And until he published that book in 2014, pretty much nobody, exception of Ray Kurzweil, me and a few other people, were actually thinking about this. But then we had the 3 wise men moment, when Stephen Hawking, Elon Musk, and Bill Gates all said pretty much the same thing, which is strong AI is probably coming, and it's either going to be the best thing or the worst thing ever to happen to us, which I do agree with. That prompted the great droid dread, the great robot freakout of 2015, and this guy was all over the newspapers again, which is fine, you know, it's a nice image, why wouldn't you? It had the negative consequence that people like Google, who've been working on creating an artificial brain for a long time, got really pissed off and they stopped talking about AI in public, so that wasn't so helpful. And in fact, although Skynet isn't impossible, it's not the real threat. The real threat is this. The real threat is we create a machine and we don't quite specify the goals right. And they're not quite what we intended it to do. It's a case of sort of don't do what I say, do what I mean, and we haven't really told it what we mean. And it's very hard to say what we mean. How on earth do we define human well-being? How do you tell a machine, maximize human well-being? It's a really difficult task. So there are massive potential downsides from strong AI, superintelligence. There are also massive potential upsides. DeepMind, the company that keeps being name-checked here, now owned by Google, has this brilliant task it sets itself, which is to, step 1, solve intelligence, and step 2, use that to solve everything else. And when they say everything else, they really mean everything else. Climate change, war, poverty, death. So here's a thought that will probably persuade the 50% of you who don't already think I'm crazy that I am. There are probably people in this room today who will not need to die. Because if we do create a superintelligence within the next 50 years, some of you I'm sure will still be alive, you may not need to die because the superintelligence, if it likes us, may solve that problem for us. Death is just a bit of bad engineering by evolution. One thing's for certain, whether the outcome is good or bad, we can't stop it happening. Relinquishment, putting AI on hold, is not an option. Firstly, because we wouldn't know which bits of research to stop. We don't know which bits of research are going to get us to superintelligence. And secondly, because there's just too much money to be made, and there's too much advantage to be had in having a better intelligence than your competitor. Whether you're a company, or a government, or above all an army, it can be a matter of life and death to have a better AI than the next person. So it's going to happen. And there is a huge amount of money going into AI. These 6 companies, between them, they spend more on R&D than the UK does. That's more than our government, our universities, and all of our companies put together. These 6 companies spend more on that. And they are increasingly all AI companies. Google always has been, Facebook was early on, Amazon pretty much always was. Microsoft and Apple have recently done a pivot. Microsoft openly declared we are now an AI company. So some people worry that there might be a third AI winter. I'm pretty confident there is not going to be a third AI winter because AI now works. It works, it makes money, and people are investing in it for that reason. So there are 6 or 7, you should add Uber, huge AI-driven tech giants in the States, and there are 3 in China. Baidu is China's Google, Alibaba is China's Amazon, and Tencent is a big phone and internet company. And here's the list of big AI-driven European tech companies. And I think that's a problem, as I will explain. So, what we have to do, with regard to the technological singularity, strong AI, we have to make sure that the first superintelligence really, really likes us. Unfortunately, there are some very smart people working on that problem. Two of them are exactly where you'd expect to find them in the States, one in California and one in Berkeley. And the other two, heroically, are in the UK, one in Oxford and one in Cambridge. And Stephen Cave, who gave the first talk, he is actually very much involved in all of those, but particularly the one in Cambridge. So we've got some very bright people. They're increasingly well funded, thanks to very beneficent and smart people like Elon Musk and Jan Calum. We've got some smart people working on this problem. It's a multi-generational problem, and we seem to be making some progress. It's early days. And also, fortunately, this organisation comprises those big tech giants. Google has started to talk about AI again, which is great. That's really good news. So, superintelligence, really, really important, because if we get it wrong, it'll kill us. But more urgent, the economic singularity. And this is about automation. Now, automation isn't new. We've had it since before the Industrial Revolution, and the poster child is the agricultural industry, where in 1800, agriculture employed about 80% of all American workers. In 1900, it was down to about 40% of all American workers, and now it's down below 2%. But that wasn't a problem for the humans who used to work on the land, because as well as their muscle power, which is what the machines substituted, they had another talent to offer. They had their brain power, they had their cognitive abilities. It didn't work out so well for the horse. In 1900, there was about 25 million horses in America, or pretty much all of them working, and now that number is down well below 2 million. Hopefully, they all went through natural wastage rather than all being taken out the back of the shop. But the horses did not have anything else to offer other than their muscle power, and so they've disappeared. So peak horse was around 1900, and what we've now got coming is a wave of cognitive automation. I really like Stephen's little thing about the robot on the table, which just falls off the edge. We're now getting machines which can see the edge and won't fall off the edge, and they are increasingly able to do the things that we can do at work. As people have said before, we have machines now which can recognize images, including faces, better than you can. Machines are overtaking us right now in speech recognition, and they're catching up on us fast in natural language processing. And they're improving at an exponential rate. So before long, they will do all of those things better than we can, much better than we can. And so they're going to replace us in our cognitive work. This does not require them to be artificial general intelligences. It doesn't require them to be conscious. It doesn't require them to be strong AI. They just need to be able to do the things that we do when we are call center operatives, or architects, or lawyers, which are not the sum of our human being. So, probably the most authoritative study, although the authors would admit, I'm sure, that there's a good deal of guesswork in it, said that in the next 20 years, half of all American jobs can be automated. So maybe we've got peak human in the workplace coming along. You've seen the next version of this slide already. We've seen cognitive automation before. Here's cognitive automation in practice. So in 1978, in most American states, or around about half American states, the most common job title was secretary. Secretaries don't exist anymore. Secretaries did exist when I started work. I'm sure many of you have never met a secretary. They were usually women, and they operated a computer because their boss was too posh to operate a computer. Nowadays, bosses operate their own computers. And now, in most American states, the most common job title is truck driver. Now, what is going to happen to those people when self-driving cars, self-driving vehicles become commonplace? Stefano said he was skeptical about self-driving vehicles. I don't really understand why. You can get in a self-driving taxi right now in Pittsburgh and in Singapore. You flag one down, it'll take you from A to B. There is no human driving it. Google's self-driving cars have driven over 2 million miles. Tesla is getting staggering amounts of information from its automated, it's not entirely self-driving, its automated system. Self-driving cars already work. All the major motor manufacturers have climbed on board this bandwagon. They are all going to be issuing cars which are fully automated around the turn of this decade. Now, passenger cars, consumer cars will spread fairly quickly, but where self-driving will spread really, really fast is in the commercial fleet. In a commercial fleet, whether it's a truck or a taxi, the human driving it is a quarter of the cost. So if you can take that person out, you save a lot of money. Commercial fleets are going to adopt self-driving technology like wildfire. It isn't just drivers, it isn't just professional drivers. Machines can already diagnose illnesses better than human doctors. Lawyers are finding big chunks of their work being taken over by machines. Same is true of journalists, and same is increasingly true in warehouses and in factories. The machines don't care whether you're white collar or blue collar, they are colorblind. Now, the economists all say that this is rubbish. We've seen automation many times and it doesn't create lasting unemployment. And they're right, in the past it hasn't, because we always had something to offer. So they say we will work closely with the machines. We will become centaurs, half machine, half human. We will develop partnerships with machines. But you have to wonder, as the machines get smarter and smarter and smarter, and much better than us at all those things I mentioned before, what is the role for humans? The partnership's going to look increasingly hollow from our point of view. So then they say, well, that's all right, we'll all do caring jobs, because machines don't care, they don't have empathy. Well, it turns out that humans quite like being looked after by machines, because machines never lose patience. You can tell the machine the same joke 100 times, and it just doesn't care. And we can have lots of them, and they're really good at it. So I'm not sure this works either. Then the last line of defense is, well, we'll invent a whole load of new jobs. We'll invent new jobs that we can't conceivably imagine now. Maybe we'll all be virtual reality architects, or our grandchildren will. And they say that's what happened before. After all, there's lots of web designers now, and their grandparents were working on farms and could not have understood, what it meant. Well, that's not actually what happened. 90% of all Americans working now are doing jobs which existed in 1900. So we haven't actually created huge swathes of new types of jobs. So from the lessons of history, there's no reason to think why we're going to do it in the future. So they say, well, we'll just revolutionize the education system and we'll turn truckers into machine language coders. Yeah, we've tried to revolutionize education many times and it never works, but we will not be able to keep up with these changes. So I think that the economists, and Andrew McAfee and Eric Brynjolfsson, the authors of The Second Machine Age, I think are absolute prime villains here. I think they're guilty of the reverse fallacy. They may be right. Maybe we will always be in employment and we won't have to worry about this, but there's a very, very good chance that we won't. There's a very good chance that we are heading towards massive unemployment, by which I mean a large minority, very likely a majority of people will be unemployable through no fault of their own. They simply won't be able to work for a living. Now, if we're smart, if we manage this transition well, the transition to the economic singularity, then it could be a brilliant world, a world in which machines do all the boring stuff. No more human actuaries, no more humans working in call centers. It's machines who do all that. Great. Humans get on with the important business of living, which is socializing and playing and learning and having fun. But there are some problems. The problem a lot of people think of is, what will we all do? How will we find meaning in our lives? And I think, in fact, I just refuse to believe that the height of human fulfillment is to be an actuary. I think that we can get fulfillment in our lives doing many other things. The big problem we do have is income. How are we going to pay for everybody who can no longer work for a living? Some people say, well, we'll introduce universal basic income. And that's fine, but it's very, very expensive. The French socialist candidate is apparently a fan of universal basic income, and he reckons every Frenchman and every Frenchwoman should get, I think it's about 700 euros a month, which is not a lot of money, but it would cost 22% of French GDP to fund it. So it's not easy, particularly because both companies and individuals tend not to like paying tax too much. And where's the money going to come from if it doesn't come from tax? And here's the problem I spoke about earlier. The money increasingly is going to have to come from the tech companies, because AI is where all the wealth is being generated, and they are in the States and in China. Europe is going to be going to those two places with a great big begging bowl. But there's an even bigger problem with UBI than how on earth we fund it, and that is, it's not enough. If you were a truck driver earning $40,000, $50,000 a year, or a lawyer earning $100,000 a year or more, you are not going to be happy to be told that you're now going to be living on $1,000 a month forever. We've seen recently what happens when a substantial chunk of the population gets unhappy and feels that they've been passed over financially. So imagine it's 2025, and imagine a great swathe of the 1 million professional drivers in this country and the 5 million professional drivers in the States are unemployable. There aren't really jobs that are suitable for them. They're currently doing blue-collar jobs and earning white-collar salaries. There isn't anything to replace that, and they are really, really angry. So doctors and lawyers and warehouse workers think, that driver is me in 2, 5 or 10 years' time. I don't know when, but I know it's coming. I better get liquid. I better get into cash. And they all decide to sell their houses. And they all think, I can realise everybody else is going to come to this conclusion, so I better sell my house quickly before anybody else does. But they're all doing it at the same time. We may have the mother of all house price crashes, and this could happen in 2025. Now, it probably won't, because all forecasts are wrong. All forecasts are wrong. But something like this could happen. Something really bad could happen. It is time for us to wake up. Because what we've seen with the election of President Trump is really just a sick joke compared to what could come later. And by the way, if there are any Americans in the audience, all right, you can stop the joke now. We promise, if you admit it was all a joke, we promise that we won't ever say Americans have no sense of irony again. Can we please have the other candidate back? So, we've got a big problem. But we can solve this problem because we are a clever little mammal. And there's 7 billion of us. We've got a lot of bright, smart people who could solve this problem. But we don't have time to waste. We have to wake up and start addressing this problem. And the reverse Luddite fallacy, which is what the economists have got us all doing at the moment, is really dangerous. So, is AI a threat to humanity? Absolutely it is, but it's a fantastic opportunity, and we have to make sure that we get the good outcomes and not the bad outcomes. And at the moment we've got an orange light on the superintelligence, and we've got an increasingly red light on the economic singularity. Thank you.